So one of the positive outcomes of lockdown for me has been learning new eye makeup skills.
I managed to start and finish a novel.
Making terrariums. Giving them a go.
It was looking at this plant, which I planted during lockdown 1.0, that I realised the inspiration for today's community darling. You see, my other plants that weren't doing as well had become my analogy for 2020. You know, they're not blooming. But in many ways, my negativity became a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I wasn't paying attention to this beautiful plant in the centre that was doing really well. Instead, I was digging my own hole of depression. But 2020 hasn't been all doom and gloom, and the restrictions that have come with the pandemic for many have allowed them the time and space to think about the direction of their life, their work, or even a project they've been thinking about, and have allowed them the focus to point themselves in the right direction.
It feels wrong to be sort of celebrating when so many people aren't doing very well. That's somewhat frustrating, but I understand. I completely get it. We're in the 6th month of a hardcore lockdown here in Melbourne in the middle of a global pandemic, and I've started a fashion label. You would think that everything's stacked against me, but distractions without sounding rude, you know, like gigs aren't distractions. I love doing gigs, but you've got to put something down and then change mode, I guess, is the thing. And then pick that up and go, right, I'm going to do this. Yeah, and so it's having the time and the space to just solely focus on one thing.
Polly's been talking about focusing on costume design for years, but it wasn't until the restrictions came with lockdown that she was able to really give it a go.
I'm not on Centrelink. I'm not getting job seeker, I'm not getting job keeper or anything. Through what I'm doing, I'm keeping myself afloat. And so for me, that is massive. Stuck at home, there's nothing else to do. So I kind of really did it for a reason to get out of bed in the morning. The first lockdown, I mentally couldn't cope. In 3 days, I saw 3 months worth of income disappear, just like overnight. I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I think you could either just kind of fall apart, and that is natural. That is, and I don't hold that against anyone, you know. Hello, I did too. But there was definitely a choice to, and I don't want to sound like I'm preaching, but you can either choose to just kind of put life on hold and just tread water, or you can go, you know what, not really what I planned for 2020, but I'm going to grab the opportunity by the horns and just make the most of it.
Polly's learnt from her before COVID ways and won't be moving backwards when restrictions start to ease up. Now, let's switch from an individual in our community who's made a business in their home to an individual in our community who's opened a takeaway business in December, whose business looked likely to shut shop for good when coronavirus restrictions began.
We're doing okay compared to most people, but it's hard for us to share that with people because everyone's so down at the moment and other people are doing it so tough. We obviously went into a panic thinking, what are we going to do? Yeah. We thought about different ways to do different things within the business. We started selling treadmills, which kind of got us through the first wave of lockdowns when everyone else was closing down. We stayed open the whole time. The support from everyone has been overwhelming and amazing. We've received so much support, not only from friends, local businesses. We've had so many people that have been supporting us, and it's been, like I said, overwhelming. It's been great. But there's been a lot of silver linings for us that have come out of all of this. Obviously, our business has been able to grow. We've been able to employ someone. It's been amazing.
And it's not just in businesses that are doing well where the positive stories exist. They exist all around us, in people who have started doing new things in lockdown that have surprised even them.
Life hasn't really been easy, losing my job back in March, not having an income, and being a foreigner in a foreign land. Obviously the government, you don't really get aid from them. To try and stay positive, what I've done is I've actually come up with a Zoom cooking show. I started this as a way to connect with people, as a way to interact with people, because what we do is it's actually an interactive cooking show where you cook the same time I cook, step by step. When I'm cutting things, you're cutting things. When I'm putting things in the oven, you're putting things in the oven. And just come and watch and be entertained as I try not to burn my eyelashes off, you know? And by doing this, it's actually it's motivated me to look forward to something every week. Because when I see everybody turn up at the Zoom session to cook along with me, you feel the love, you know, you feel the positivity, you feel the energy coming from other people. And that's what a lot of us peak off, you know, working in the hospitality industry. You're happy when somebody else is happy, you know? And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And Sometimes you think to yourself, if I can make someone forget their problems for 5 minutes, you're already very happy. And the joys in their faces brings me so much joy.
And a win doesn't have to be a big thing. You know what, if you cut your own hair in ISO, that's a skill. You made a meal from scratch. Not everyone can do that. Honestly, sometimes a win can be as simple as getting up in the morning and making your bed. Which reminds me, I should finally finish cleaning my house.
So during ISO, I managed to start and finish a novel, which is pretty cool.
One of the positive outcomes of lockdown for me has been learning new eye makeup skills. Being in lockdown has meant that I've had the time to really play with colours and styles that I wouldn't usually, and be able to create looks that I didn't think I was capable of prior to lockdown, because I've just had that time to hone that skill. So that's been a great unexpected benefit.
I've had a big chance to actually try something I've always wanted to try, which was making terrariums. Giving them a go. A lot of small details and a lot of knickknacks I got around with succulents and smaller plants. Yeah. Just turning any glass container into something to hold some nice little plants.
It's going to be around until we get a vaccine, so let's start celebrating everyone's wins, and it can't all be negative.
So what's your win, big or small? We want to hear it. You'd be amazed the difference flicking a switch from 2020 doom and gloom to 2020 new directions can mean for your entire outlook.
My mother had a saying, how do you eat an elephant? With one little mouthful at a time, you know, and it might take a while, but you'll eat the elephant.